Hi, welcome to D10tion, where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to D&D. I am your host. Oh my god, I'm in quarantine. Let me out, let me out, let me out. Tristan. And to my left, we have Sam. Pretty much the same thing. Let us out. We want to play D&D. So today on D10tion, as you can tell, we have a very different setup if you're watching the actual video of it because, well, we're in quarantine.
Lockdown.
Indeed. And unfortunately, Sam is married to me, so she's stuck with me, so guess what she gets to do?
I have to deal with him.
Well, I meant just detention, but geez, way to just cut a man while he's down.
It's been 2 weeks.
So clearly we're without Brandon, our third counterpart for the show, or, usually we're a trio when it comes to detention. But since it's just you and I, we're going to kind of go over, and I think we're just going to talk about some of the things in the past that we've done with D&D and kind of reminisce about some fun moments.
Some of our best, some of our worst, our funniest, our least funniest moments in the campaigns and the one-shots that we've played. Just because I think it's kind of nice to, talk about some of the weird shit that happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is, because we're talking about aching to play some D&D, because if you follow us on Roll Call on our YouTube and everything, we haven't been able to play an actual session for a while because of everything going on. We've been doing a lot of performance checks, because we're missing players, and we don't want to endanger anyone.
No, so, be safe, stay home.
Yes, so as we try to work out the kinks with even just trying to get together on Discord or Zoom or something, I think this is just a good way for us to talk about D&D.
Yeah. So
let's start with our very first experience. Our first experience with D&D was together.
Yeah.
You ended up being the DM. I was a dwarf.
It was you, me, and then 3 of our friends, and
one of which was Sean.
I think only one of us out of the group had actually ever played D&D before, but nobody had ever DM'd. So I was like, oh, you know what, I'm a smart cookie, I can figure it out by myself. Which to some degree I kind of did, but I had never seen a game, played a game, so I didn't really know what to do. I was just kind of making it up as I went along, using this sort of pre-built. I think thinking back on it, it was kind of like a pre-built one-shot dungeon crawl type thing,
right?
And just kind of going with it. You had played a dwarf. We had, one of our friends was playing an elf. Was she an elf rogue, I think?
I think she was an elf rogue.
Somebody else was
a half-elf cleric. I think it's what Sean, you've seen him on a couple of our streams, like the dragon one and a couple of the one-shots you've seen, Sean with. I believe he was like a half-elf cleric.
Right. I don't really remember. It was a few years ago.
It was a while ago and a very odd experience.
But I just remember, I was trying to figure everything out, and I think part of my thing at the time was well, I'm the DM, so I guess whatever, if I don't know and if they don't know any better, then I'll just make some shit up and we'll see what happens. Which, I mean, on the one hand, at the time, for what it wasn't, the worst experience in the world. It was just not D&D. It was more like we had gone into... I had you guys go into some ruins or something. Or it was some dungeon for some reason.
Right.
I remember you busted a door with your head.
Yes, I was gonna say if we go through our best and worst rememberings of that, my best was probably running around. Because I was trying to add flavor to things, and again I didn't totally understand how D&D fully worked. I was like, I headbutt the door open,
and because I didn't understand how D&D worked, I was like,
okay,
attack the door, I guess. I guess if it's higher than 10 you win. I didn't really get it, so I was just kind of making it up.
Right. I think the worst was for me was one of the players, the rogue, thought it was a great idea to start stealing from players,
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just remember thinking like, you're a reason why parties don't work is because like, I'm steal from my own party. It's like,
and me as a first time DM and like also as kind of one of those chaotic neutral type of people.
You're
normal,
like,
I was like, okay, it's fine. So there are no negative consequences. Overall, it was not a good first experience, I think, for either one of us.
No, I think it was a fun experience especially with someone like Sean, where we sat down and a lot of it was making characters.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun doing, as well as, like small things like headbutting the doors. Our first experiences with traps and stuff, I think it was entertaining because like the second you thought you did it, you didn't do.
Right.
So I think that has its own like good and bad, and it's definitely it's usually around the same experience I think a lot of people have with their first D&D play session when no one really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's ironic that the person that has played D&D before was not our DM.
No.
It was like,
nor were they very helpful as far as running a DM game. Not to fault that person, but it was just like I had no idea what I was doing. But so we kind of gave up for a little while after that.
Right.
And then we had tried again with. Well, we didn't even play. We didn't even wind up playing with this DM because, before we kind of even got there, he was laying out all these table rules, and don't get me wrong, table rules are there for a reason, but
right.
we just felt like the rules that were there that he had were just kind of asinine.
Right, and we go much more in depth into that in our table rules episode.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to find out more about table rules, go ahead and check out that episode of D10tion after you watch this one, of course. So eventually Roll Call Studios happens.
Right.
After we start playing with people like Brandon, and we've done a wealth of things.
Yeah. Now, it should be mentioned that before we even started this endeavor, we had been playing the Bards and Noble campaign for quite some time. We started
6
playing
months or so.
We started playing Bards and Noble, I think, in June of 2017, and then in May of I guess it was June of 2018, and then May of 2019 we launched the roll call.
That sounds
so
right.
we'd been playing for almost a full year and doing the Bards and Noble campaign, and when it started it was you, me, Hannah, who's Brandon's girlfriend, and then Sean. Fiance, yes, correction, congratulations. I was there. I helped you guys get married. Whatever.
We had Malcolm and Sean.
We didn't even start with Malcolm at first, I think. I think we just started with the four of us.
That's true. We had Sean, Hannah, you,
right.
and I.
And then shortly after that, Sean, he kind of had to make some commitments, which was a shame because I would have really liked to have seen where Aristotle would be now.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity maybe down the line for him to come in.
But I remember, I think one of our first was our first like funny experience was after Malcolm had joined, because I think Malcolm joined before Sean left.
Yes, because he joined while we were all together still during the first main battle of everything, and. Because Sean didn't leave until we were in Sonnerheim, Soren's hometown.
Yeah. So we had an experience where we were in Humbleton, this first town, and we were trying to figure some things out. We came across this dwarf that had a curse mark, and somebody, I'm not going to name names, thought it would be a good idea to cut the curse mark off. I don't know what that person was thinking or what was going through her head. I'm sure at the time she was like, oh, if we cut off the tattoo, it'll remove the curse.
For those of you who can't see, I am pointing at Sam. It was Sam. It was definitely Sam.
It sparked one of those moments where then we were like, I made like a really poor medicine sleight of hand check to cut this tattoo off. So first off, it was really shoddy, and then we're like, oh, what do we do with this tattoo mark?
Flesh.
Because we were like, I'm sure this piece of flesh is now cursed. So we were like, burn the flesh. Throw the flesh. So.
It was like decisions. Yeah,
that was the line that our party really could have dived into being full blown murder hobos.
Right,
I think,
very much
if
so.
we had continued that sort of chaotic stupidity. It was a funny moment though.
Yes. So yeah, as far as like times before we started streaming, throw the flesh has been a long time joke with all of us.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I don't want to go through like the entire history of bards and nobles. I think that's another episode.
That's stuff that's covered in like in Roll for Bluff.
Right. So let's reminisce of some other good fun moments, whether they're on stream or not.
So I think after that, one of my next favorite moments was after. It was after Sean had left and after Rhaegarn had joined the group.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in Sonderheim, and everybody was getting drunk and, like, whatever, and Rhaegarn, who was our Dragonborn ranger, it started hitting on a Goliath, and, you know, it turned out that he found out that his sexuality wasn't exactly straight.
Right, because he had done several other seduction techniques for other characters in other towns, and he always failed, including, like, one he got into the bedroom, but then he had to roll performance for the actual act of the romance.
It didn't go so well.
And he rolled, like, a nat 1. Yeah. But then when he seduced this male Goliath, he rolled a nat 20. It was like, well, I guess my character is gay now.
And then like it was just so seamless. Like all of a sudden, like Rhaegarn was just gay. That was just his sexuality. But I loved how seamlessly that moment sort of happened, because it just sort of came by naturally, you know.
Yeah, because it was definitely one of those things where Tanner was really good at
going with the flow, like rolling with the punches.
It's like, well, that didn't go well. You find out later that it's a male Goliath. Okay, roll. Nat 20. Gay now. I wanted that Goliath dick. That's all I want.
yeah. And I mean, there's something, you know, I think I've heard, you know, a lot of DMs, the way they run things is like all characters are poly and pan. Just because, you know, it makes things, it makes it so that you're not cutting off connections that could be made.
Right.
You know, I as a DM, I always think of like, well, how's this NPC think of this party member? Like, as opposed to like simply like, you know, it's such, I don't like to label things, but like, you know, I tend to think about it more of the individual relationship, you know, or if they're a drunken stranger in a club or something, then, you know, they're a drunken stranger in the club. What's the drunken stranger in the club gonna do? You know, so yeah, but I thought that was a funny moment just because of how seamless it was.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a couple of other, like, let's just, I guess, hit some smaller ones to try and, like, because I'd also like to talk about some of the one-shots. So let's talk about some good, fun, short ones from Bards and Nobles. Like, Long Rest is one that you'll see as a clip on YouTube as well.
We used that in an ad, and it's so great because Hannah's, like, you know, Hannah's very quiet as a player. She doesn't talk a lot. She's very much like Lyran, who would rather like kind of be in a corner reading a book or something. You know, so then to have her like pull some snarky thing where Brandon's like, "You wake up in a horse trough."
Well, because Lyran, her character, got drunk with a bunch of bandits, more or less.
But like, then to have, but you know, to get her moments where she just claps back like that, you know, where it's like, "So you wake up in a horse trough." Okay, but did I get a long rest? Like,
right. Because she's a water ganassi, she can breathe underwater, so she slept underwater.
I think.
Yeah, it was priorities. I think that was exactly what I said. It was like, did I get a long rest? Yes, we all laugh and go priorities.
Yeah. I think another good moment, and I'll never forget Zeke's laugh during this moment, was when you got turned into a
Soren turtle.
Soren turned into a turtle.
Is amazing. So during one of the streams, we encounter a halfling.
A halfling druid.
Yes, and we eventually learned his name is Sprout, but he's being mind controlled by a clockwork spider, and I go, "Hello, are you friend or foe?" And he goes, "Ha!" and polymorphs me into a turtle. So we just see the 8-foot tall Goliath just.
And I'll never remember because we use it in a clip for something else too. You can look at Zeke's face, and you'll just see him be like, ah! Like he just, it's
one of those laughs where it starts off with a. Wait, what?
I think it just caught us all off guard.
Right.
But that was a great moment.
Soren Turtle's definitely a great moment.
I think it's as horrible as it is, as much as I don't like, you know, I love animals. I'm an animal lover. I work at a vet's office.
Winifred. That was before the stream started, yes.
But Winifred. So at one point we had been running through one of the cities, and
Soren, towards the Colosseum.
Soren jumped a wall, like leaped over it, and just didn't even think about where he was going to land and landed directly on a horse.
And with Soren being 8 foot, 400 pounds,
just killed the
falling from
horse.
12 feet in the air.
Basically, and you just hear this farmer come out and he's like, Winifred! And like, so as horrible as it was, like, as much as I don't like to make fun of it, it's fun every now and then just to be like, Winifred!
Like, if there's a horse anywhere in the campaign, one of us is always like, Winifred?
Soren has a lot of funny moments. Then the time that you got turned into a unicorn.
Oh, that's Sprout again. Being like, I can turn you into a unicorn. Or I think a unicorn one that's usually good. For those of you who don't know, Soren's favorite animal is a unicorn because it's the most battle-ready horse.
It's got a horn drilled in their head.
It's a sword on a horse. But when we run into the actual unicorn on the way to the Ramhorn's mountain, and everyone just sees Soren walk over to this unicorn, talk to it, and then they start fighting. It's like, did he just start fighting a unicorn for no reason? And of course, the group doesn't know that Soren is talking to the unicorn, and the unicorn's like, well, then prove to me that you're worthy of the hammer. And they're like, okay, blah, and they start fighting. So just the visual of Soren fighting a unicorn in the distance is hilarious.
Yeah, see, Soren's got a lot of funny. Cal's moments aren't so funny; they're just really sad.
Cal has a lot of sad moments.
Well, you know what? We are talking about the best and worst. So I mean, you know, Cal's had some pretty horrible moments. Like, selling Kikyo's soul.
Selling Kikyo's soul.
That's a big one.
I think getting Soren's brother's face in your book.
Yeah. I have this haunted journal, and you know, somebody decided it'd be fun to throw the face of Gorn in my book, like his torn off face. Cal's been to hell and been tortured.
Right. I even just think the moment that Soren's brother Gorn dies, or the demon is being sucked into the furnace as it goes down, and he rips off his face like, "Oh, brother is dead," and Soren just stares at him and goes, "I know, he's been dead a long time." It's like, I don't know if that's sad, badass, or funny.
I mean, obviously there was one point where Liren had died, and Cal, you know, who hates everybody but Liren, was like, "Oh my god, Liren, why?" And then, you know, Azazel's like,
"I can fix it. You're now
time."
There's a time that Leon dies.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember that one because that's where, like, a lot of us were really surprised because Hannah wasn't even there when Liren died. So when Leon died, and he just kind of was just like, "No, I don't." Like,
that was another funny moment too because Zeke. I mean,
because it was like Leon is dead, and Hannah's like, "Really?" Like we're all like, "No,"
and Zeke's like, "No, I'm not."
And then he just starts making another. He was like, "Well, I'm dead. Time to make another character." And then it was one of those moments where afterwards there was a contingency plan for like that first death. That it was like, "Well, you have something." He had
Shalik,
that could sacrifice herself to bring him back, and
because he had that curse mark. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a ton of like sad, depressing moments.
I mean,
there's a lot of moments that were tense. Soren and Cal had a lot of tension between them.
Right.
Soren, because they were lawful good, Cal the chaotic neutral, both struggling to be like party face while not really wanting to be party face.
Right. Like, they're very drastically different people, so it definitely changed.
It was definitely like mom and dad are fighting again. In a lot of ways, that's what it felt like.
More recently, right before everything went down, we had the more recent characters switch bodies. I say most recent characters because you now play Chet instead of Cal. Liren is gone. We have introduced Solomon and Morena, characters played by Chris and Nancy, respectively. Morena is always full of good moments because, you know, she goes from a character who was being held as a slave for a crime boss, more or less, to now being this. She's like 20.
She's young. Everything's new.
She's really
like,
young. Especially
she's embracing her freedom. Like so, everything for her is like a moment of like, oh, like curiosity and like.
Because we're talking really young. Because she's an elf or a half elf.
Yeah, she's young. She's like 20.
20. So, she is like the babiest of baby. So she's like essentially this teenager who's been given ultimate freedom
so
after
she has a lot of moments.
trying to seduce the side remarks. It's like, you shall not pass. You know what mileage let me pass. It's like, wait, did you just try to pass and throw a pass at the guard? It's like, because what, she just like side hit on one of the masseuses at one point.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, now you have a date because they rolled and they thought that was a good thing. But yeah, more recently we've had the characters switch bodies. With a very Ghostbuster
Which
feel.
I'd say it's fun, but it's not.
You're telling me I'll go from playing a barbarian to now I'm a wizard and I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I feel like it was supposed to be something fun, but then like led into this whole other storyline of like destruction and woe.
I think the act of switching bodies.
But yeah, the act of switching bodies itself is...
Well, especially because there's a budding romance between Chet and Morena.
Yeah, so now Morena is in Sorn's body, and Chet's in Morena's body right now. Sorn's stuck in Chet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the worst.
Chet's not the... never mind, we'll argue about that later.
It's the worst for me
you
as a
be
barbarian.
Stuck in Cal's body, that would be even worse.
She'd at least have fighting techniques.
Technically, Chet's stronger.
As a spellcaster.
No, stronger in general. So, yeah, we've had a lot of funny moments in the campaign, a lot of good moments.
Right.
Scattered throughout the just overpowering force of darkness that's in this campaign. But, like, what about the, like, one-shots?
Some of the one-shots have been absolutely brilliant for funny things. Like, for example... a good one is your first excursion into DMing a one shot for us was the Almighty Five.
Yeah,
and the Almighty Five was absolutely ridiculous because we were all playing high level evil characters.
Yeah, and
I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but with my character that I played, it was just full of just ridiculousness.
I think it was. I mean, I'm not gonna say don't toot your own horn, but I think just the combination of seeing it all happen as the DM. It was the combination of like Sean's grave cleric, who's
just
like
mopey.
I'm just gonna give contagion to random people, ha. And then you also had Sarkikos, Chris playing an Ettercap. Now this is a new player and a newer DM.
Right, this is the first time he was on stream.
A monster that I've homebrewed into a race. The first time he's on stream. And he did such a good job with it. Like,
right.
Really
so it should be noted.
It.
So we've talked about this briefly before, but when we asked Chris to be a part of this, I lost something in communication when talking to him because I asked him if he would be comfortable playing a bad guy, and in my head I was like, "Would you be comfortable playing a bad character?" He thought that meant I was asking him to be the main villain for the campaign. Because again, he hasn't played before.
Yeah, so he didn't know, and so when I was like, okay, well, do you know what you're going to play? And he was like, oh yeah, I decided I'm going to play an Ettercap. And I'm like...
That's not a race.
I was like, pause. And then as the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I'm going to let you do this, because...
He had put in a lot of work for it.
He had put in, like, all this backstory for it, this reason why he was there, like... And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this a thing. Let's have this happen. So that was another element, And then you had, Brandon playing Ren Goldenrod, this, like... snobbish, highly intelligent businessman. And then you had... Hi, Billy Bays here,
I played Kralik, a turtle, because I really enjoyed turtles. But he was a drunken monk rogue his character was he was a snake oil salesman, more or less.
Yeah.
So he had an alternate persona, which was Bill Bays, which he sold Bill Bays bottles of bountiful benefits. And that was the persona he put on when he was in public. So we had it all the time where the second we went out into a town or something, he was immediately the face.
Right.
And it was a parody of Billy Mays being a TV salesman, where he was just selling these bottles of just garbage.
And I really do. I just think like the combination of those characters coming together, or even because I think for part one we also had Igus, who was Kyle's character.
Yes.
And he was talking to himself in the third person, like...
Because he was a changeling also with the persona as well.
And then we had Chris come in for the second part. And
as well as Zeke showed up for the
I gotta
second
say, when it comes to one-shots, like, I feel like the Almighty Five was in a lot of ways like a crowning accomplishment for me, just because of how great you guys work together as a team, and like we got a lot of long lasting stuff from that. I mean, we still have, we carry Cathrock Blackjaw as he's now this multi-dimensional entity that floats around different campaigns and different one-shots, and little Easter eggs will be dropped about him. And then, we have Sarkikos, who in the side campaign that I run off stream is one of the NPC's landlords that the PCs have run into.
He's made an appearance, yeah. I mean, like, you had characters like Bill BAEs had become, people really liked him, like, as a character, to the point where I made merch for him on the store.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely just, like, the ramblings I remember of, like, Bill BAEs just rambling at people. And I think as a DM, you were like, okay, you put a lot of work into that rant, so it helped a lot. But then, of course, it was, Kralik would turn around and he had worked with the cleric before, Sean's cleric.
Right.
Like we had joked about how they had like killed an entire town with a contagion because as a monk I'm immune to disease.
Yeah.
So it was just like wiped out a whole town.
And to as far as like one shots go, like it wasn't the hardest one. Like you guys made quick work of the heroes, and honestly like that that was a learning experience for me as a DM. Like being like, okay, so the next time I do this I need to ramp that up or up the game there. You guys also got like insanely lucky because I was gonna have that dragon came out and Sean was like banish.
And then we all just like warped around and was like, all right, let's just wait for it to come back. And then we all just went.
They all had ready actions and all this other stuff, and they just sort of overpowered it.
Right. The joke of no witnesses.
So as far as one shots go, I really think highly of that one. Another one that I really like was what was it, the one that had, it was Yumi and Sean as the Dragonborns.
It wasn't Unlock Your Dreams.
No, I can't remember the name of it though.
I'm sure we'll figure it out at some point, but
it's up on our channel.
Yes, it's hard to miss.
See it with the black dragon.
Yeah,
masks.
we all start off with black dragon masks. Sam throws her off immediately. Sean puts his like on his forehead, and I wear mine the entire time.
I think we had a lot of fun with that one. I got to play like a chaotic evil dragonborn that was totally like a lady.
You were like a snarky. What was it?
Tazrin. But I think the best part of that one was the moment that we realized after we'd beaten it and after we won.
Well, I think even leading up to that, we had a couple of good moments, such as the fact that Sean had to figure out how to lock a door because his intelligence was so low.
Yeah. Because
these were random characters. These were randomized. He was like 4 different classes.
Yeah.
You were one class, weren't you?
Yeah.
And
I don't remember.
I think I was a barbarian paladin or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like his stats were so low, like he had to figure out how to lock a door. He got the final hit.
Right.
Which was fantastic. But then then we realized after that final hit.
After everything, we realized that Sean, who had been one of his classes was a druid, and I think it was something else that was a spellcaster. He hadn't prepared any spells.
All he had was like
he literally had like what, Eldritch Blast? I think he was like a warlock druid or something like that.
He was a warlock druid ranger.
Something else. He had 4 of them, and I just remember being like, didn't have anything prepared.
Had nothing. All the spell casting abilities he had, and he had not prepared anything.
And all he did during the whole major fight against the Red Dragon
was
Eldritch Blast. That was it.
Because you were an inquisitive rogue.
Yes, yeah.
And I believe I was a barbarian paladin.
So it was really like you and me doing a lot of the fighting.
Like smash,
Sean trying to figure out how to lock a door and shooting Eldritch Blast.
And he did get the last hit, was the funniest thing. Like Sam and I are doing like
massive damage, and he just rolls up with 1d10 plus 4
and just goes
Eldritch Blast, and Brandon's like, how do you want to do it? And we're like, yeah! That was a good time. I really did enjoy that. I think it might not... I think I would want to do that in the future, like, just have characters like that where we just... I forgot to prepare my spells, or like, maybe I have no attack spells, it's all out of combat spells, or something stupid like that.
So some of the other one-shots we've done...
I don't know how to pronounce the name, but Brandon has run a one-shot for us that it's like a JRPG. Sadai no Haipai. It's just big, long Japanese anime name. And we were basically playing 4 different characters.
Right, we were asked to make 4 characters.
So they could be, you know, whatever, no class race restrictions. Most of them were, I had one evil one, but I think for the most part they were all good. But every time one died, it would be like soul switch, so your next character would just be up and be there and know what was going on. And I actually really like that. We haven't even finished that one.
No, we have not.
We started it in like November.
Right, and that was one where because it was essentially like a video game where like for every kill or achievement you did, you got a point. And I accidentally cheated the system before I knew what anything was going on, because I was like, oh, it'd be funny if I had 4 characters and they were all the same character. I essentially made like an Iron Man, where it was I took a bunch of the Warforged at the time before they were revamped, where you had like 3 to 4 different actual Warforges, and I was like, here's 4 different suits for one soldier that they try to make their own like Iron Man. And Brandon had allowed me to continue my my point gathering because it was still technically the same character. And it was just ridiculous because Captain John Battle is like keeps like, because it was you and Hannah playing, and it was just like he has seen all these other characters show up, and he's just like, why am I the only one that's still here?
Right. I mean, so that one was fun and interesting. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I've even muted everything.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
But
technology, man.
Yes, indeed. Trying our best here.
Yeah.
We had was it Unlock Your Dreams one where we had Malcolm come back, which was great.
Right.
That one was, you know, fighting a lot of beholders, and the end of that was ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking of Malcolm and one-shots, I had run a one-shot. It was even before the Almighty 5. It was about Dante's Inferno.
Ah, yes.
And Malcolm was playing a cleric druid, and I just remember at one point he started chanting. He was like, demons, demons,
yes,
because
he was a demon hunter, and so was Brandon technically.
Yeah,
and so was I.
Yeah, everybody was. I mean, I had told you guys it was Dante's Inferno, so
right?
Because
I was
surprised.
Right, I was a ranger demon hunter,
which would have worked in your favor. We never finished that one either.
No, because that was supposed to introduce Zeke to playing D&D.
Yes, yeah.
As well as our friend Eric, who unfortunately hasn't been able to come back.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean that one was a good one. The demons chant has carried on to a number of things as well.
Yeah.
Like if Malcolm is anywhere near us and a demon shows up, demon chants start happening.
It was great. I gotta say, like that one shot, I'm really sad that we never finished, because I like literally made it Dante's Inferno, and there's just a lot of things. I think if I redid it, if I reran it again, I would definitely tweak things, but I enjoyed making it.
Before we get to probably the last one I want to talk about, which is the Christmas Caper parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
One I would love to mention that we haven't been able to follow through with. We started prepping for it, was the Who's Your Daddy?
Yeah.
Which I think is it would be absolutely hilarious for us to do. Now, Who's Your Daddy is one that you based off of something that Sean had sent us. It was like a meme that you had sent.
It was a meme about bards, about how bards fuck everything.
Right.
So the whole idea was all of these guys
are half
something and half something else, but they all have the same daddy.
Right. So it would be like we're all half human, but we're all half everything else, because one bard has fucked everything.
So like I had made like homebrew things for like half bugbear, half mimic, half goblin, like, you know, half whatever. Like,
oh Jesus, right. Someone was going to be a half goblin.
Someone was going to be a half mimic.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. I was going to be a half goblin, and I was working with. Fucked a chest.
I guess.
Yeah, because I think Sean was going to be the half mimic. I was a half goblin. Brian and I were going to be like people that worked together but had no idea that we were related.
Yeah.
Like, I think the whole point was it's supposed to be like the Genghis Khan kind of thing, where it just passed the seed around to everything. And working from home, our coworkers
are fighting. One coworker is chasing around another coworker.
It's just very rude.
It's very rude. Stop it, please. Please stop.
That one, I think, if we get a chance to do that one, I think that would be great to do on stream, is get people together and do...
I would not mind running that on stream, but I will tell you there's going to need to be some 18-plus content warning on that. Like,
I mean, we already have a mature filter.
I know. It would need to be reiterated.
Okay, then maybe, depending on how you feel about it, that might be one that we do off camera and talk about on D10tion or something.
Probably.
So I think the last one that I'd like to talk about, which is probably the most ridiculous one we've done, like over everything else, the most ridiculous thing we've done is the crappy Christmas caper. Whereas the first one was not on stream. It was just like, it was around Christmas. It was before we started Roll Call Studios. Yeah. And we were just looking for something fun to do.
I would debate saying that it's the craziest one, but it's definitely, like, I think, in my opinion, it's probably been the most fun one.
Really? You don't think part 2 is the craziest thing we've done?
You forget that I ran a one-shot with, like, 10 players.
You did.
That was crazy.
Well, that's crazy as far as running.
Yeah.
I'm talking about as far as plot-wise.
But I think the Christmas Capers have been the most fun as players. I think that our characters have really, like, just taken on lives of their own.
Because the premise of the first one was your characters are tired of getting coal for Christmas.
And they fight Santa. We go and we fight Santa. That was basically it. So,
and we play just this list of just weird characters.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of peak funny moments in that, you know. I mean, we're bad guys killing Santa. We
fought Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, we fought Shia LaBeouf. It was actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Like, because it was Brandon had been like, you hear something behind you, and someone goes, Shia LaBeouf. You turn around, it's Shia LaBeouf with a knife, and you're like, it's what?
Yeah. We also released Krampus, which was your character's grandfather, great-grandfather.
I was a descendant of Krampus.
My character and Hannah's character wind up hooking up and having lots of kids. And
for those who don't know, Sam played a Tabaxi ranger, and Hannah had played a kobold sorcerer.
Yeah, so we had lots of little Colmaxy kids just running around. Because when we came back from part 2, you know, I talked to Hannah about it, and I was like, okay, so here's the deal. We have like 13 kids. I've named them all. Also, I multi-class sorcerer for that second one. You know, but then it was just like this fun fest of like characters.
Right, because the first one was fighting Santa, which we eventually killed. Right. And my character Krampus decided that he was going to run the North Pole now, and he was the new, essentially, Santa.
Right. So your character and Malcolm's character stayed there to run the North Pole.
Right.
And then for the second one, you guys were coming, where we were all there, and we were coming under attack from different holidays. So we had, like, you know, Halloween and Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day. What was the last one? Easter?
Yes, because we fought Easter bunnies.
Yeah, so we were being attacked by, like, you know, different things. So, like, for Halloween, it was, like, I think it was an undead Trent, right? And then, like, a giant pumpkin. Meanwhile, like, there was Cupids attacking from the north, and like leprechaun, and then Easter bunnies, or were bunnies.
Yes, there were were bunnies as well.
So the second one was just as insane,
right? And it all accumulated. It was because the first one, we killed Santa and Krampus had died. And the second one, it was we had rerun, like, my character was like, all right, we're gonna do Christmas my way now, and ultimately his alignment shifted because he was lawful evil, but he became much more neutral because it was just like he started running the North Pole as a business. The elves were happy, and Ball was Malcolm's character.
Yeah, and then we wound up at the very end, and we wind up fighting 2 angels or something.
Yes. They killed Krampus, who again, like, killed his soul.
Right.
So he was completely dead. And we fought 2 angels, which we almost did the exact same thing where we banished one,
focused on the other, and then when the other one came back, we were able to just sort of focus our attention on that one. We did a pretty good job on that.
Yeah. And of course that ended with you robbing the...
Oh yeah, no, I stole a shit ton of stuff.
You stole a ton of... You stole it from my warehouse.
I had to pay for those 13 kids' education.
Yes, you did. Ball was going to stick around at the North Pole. I my character was like, well, I guess I'll just adjust how I run Christmas now because we killed all these other holidays.
Yeah.
Again, his alignment shifted. He became even more powerful because we played level 20 at this point.
Yeah.
And I had like adorned some of Krampus's...
Meanwhile, my chaotic neutral, or my chaotic evil was like, deuces.
So like I now have this like Christmas empire.
Yeah.
With Ball as my right hand man and happy elves, and you're like, bye.
Me and my kobold wife and our kids are just we're living like I even though I stole all that money, I still imagine that we're like living in this like rundown shack like on the beach. The kids are like running around naked, like throwing fireballs. They're also wild magic sorcerers, and me and Cesar are like, oh, I love you, like, but also we should go steal more stuff and then spend this money on games.
We should also note that Nancy had joined us for that one as well.
Yeah, Nancy had joined us too. She was
played
an artificer.
She was my prototype person. Like, yeah, that one, if you get a chance, I would go back and rewatch the crappy Christmas Caper Part 2 because of the amount of fun and ridiculousness and just...
It was pretty great.
It was it was one of those things where, like, it was definitely a D&D session where nothing mattered. It was just, we're playing a Christmas one that makes no sense when we fight other holidays. So I think that one is definitely one to go back. The Almighty Fives, Part 1 and 2 are always a good one to go back and see. The Dragon one is just ridiculous to watch as well.
Still don't remember the name of it. It's gonna eat at me. We'll post it.
It'll show up eventually, I'm sure. So I think we could reminisce all day, especially with like Bards and Nobles. We could like recant the entire history of that, but I don't think we want to do that.
No.
So if you're looking to see some good moments, some good funny moments, the one-shots are always great, smaller portions to absorb.
It also sets you up for like a wider array of characters, a wider array. It's not just Brandon DMing. Like I'll DM too. We also usually have guests on, so it's nice to sort of change the lineup every so often. So
I think that's enough reminiscing for right now. We have to go back to being quarantined and staying 6 feet apart from each other.
And keeping our tabaxis from eating each other.
Which they are all
co-workers, man.
all of them are nuts. One of which is really nuts.
I say we should probably end it before she breaks something.
Yeah, alright guys. Well, until next time, D10tion dismissed.